Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 1 Episode 12 Rescue on Ryloth has finally been released, and as you can probably tell from the title, we return to the home of the Twi'lek people, Ryloth. This episode has some cool little connections to the other Star Wars TV shows, and gives us a hint at something absolutely massive for the clone troopers of the Empire. So let's break down everything that went down in the episode, and how they will affect the series going into the final 4 episodes. So make sure you hit the subscribe button down below for more awesome Star Wars lore content. So the story begins back on Ryloth, where Hera's parents Eleni and Cham Syndulla, as well as the other members of the Ryloth resistance movement, have been arrested after the attempted assassination of Orn Free Taa, who's serving as the senator of the planet. Obviously, Cham Syndulla never pulled the trigger on Orn Free Taa, and instead it was Crosshair, but the Empire would never pass up a good opportunity to throw their enemies in the brig. Following this, Rampart demands that Hera's mother reveal the location of her daughter, but she refuses, leading Rampart to order Captain Hauser to arrest anyone who sympathizes with the Twi'lek resistance or the Syndullas. Unlike most clone troopers after Order 66, Hauser speaks up against this order, warning Rampart that they have no reason to arrest these innocent people, but Rampart is happy to make up an excuse to do it. This is again showing a much higher level of independence in Captain Hauser, possibly hinting that he was one of the clones who resisted Order 66, just like Captain Rex told us on Bracca. It could be that Hauser's chip is damaged, or even that all of the inhibitor chips are starting to wear off now that we're quite a few weeks past Order 66. Hauser then again speaks up, knowing that the blaster bolt that hit Orn Free Taa certainly didn't come from Cham Syndulla, but Rampart isn't having it and tells his captain to leave the thinking to him. Yet another sign that Hauser is not far from flipping. Following this, Chopper and Hera overhear Crosshair and his elite squad and realize that they will scour every inch of the planet until they find her, so she knows she must send out a transmission for someone to come and save her. As a result, she sends out a holo message, which is received by the Bad Batch, who begin to argue if it is really smart to save someone that they just met, but eventually Omega convinces them to head to Ryloth. After this, the Bad Batch arrive on the planet and rush to Cham Syndulla's old resistance base, where Hera is hiding out, trying to avoid detection by the Empire. The young Twi'lek is terrified at the situation, and the Bad Batch are not sure whether or not to help out, because they don't fully know the situation. While scouting the situation out, Omega is shocked to learn that wherever the Batch happen to be in the galaxy, they always come face to face with Crosshair every time. Either way, a probe droid quickly finds their location and reports it to Crosshair, which of course puts them in severe danger, leading the Bad Batch to flee back to Cham's secret base. Back at the Imperial headquarters in the capital, Hauser again shows his rebellious nature by warning Rampart that they can't keep rounding up innocent protesters, or they will incite an uprising very soon. Of course, he's completely right, and we know from the canon books and later Star Wars Rebels that this does actually happen, but for a clone post-Order 66 to say it, it tells you that something is different about Hauser's inhibitor chip. Back with the Bad Batch, Hera is crying next to Chopper because the Bad Batch refused to help save her family, and she asks Omega why she trusts the Bad Batch so much. Omega responds by telling Hera that they are brothers, which shocks the young Twi'lek and brings her a little bit of sadness. Now this is an awesome connection to Star Wars Rebels, because we know, thanks to Thrawn's incredible deductive skills and fondness for art, that Hera had a brother who died when he was quite young. Thrawn was able to determine this by looking at Hera's Kalikori, which is a traditional Twi'lek heirloom. After that, Hauser shows his most major act of defiance yet by offering to protect the young Hera if Cham and Eleni will hand over her location. Obviously, they don't trust Hauser after this whole situation, so they don't immediately hand over her location, but Hauser clearly has good in his heart during this moment. While this is happening, Chopper is sent into the front lines and brutally murders a fellow astromech before stomping into a nearby computer system, hoping to disable the cannons that are defending the capital. Chopper is quickly caught, meaning Hera and Omega must go in to help him. Following this, Hera and Omega take off in a nearby shuttle, and because Gobi never lets Hera do takeoffs, she has a very shaky takeoff. Nevertheless, Hera gets the ship into the air and begins tearing the nearby Imperial refinery to shreds with ease, while the rest of the Bad Batch start taking down the cannons around the capital. Wrecker is having the time of his life, while the clones on the ground are in sheer panic as they call in reinforcements from all around Ryloth. Meanwhile, the Bad Batch manage to bust Cham, Eleni and Gobi, as well as the others out of prison, and they will soon come face to face with riot-shielded clone troopers if they don't do something about it, as well as Crosshair perched up on a cliff above them. These riot shields are in the same vein as the ones used by the Coruscant riot troopers from the Clone Wars series, and this is pretty much one of the standard use cases for these troopers. Following this, Hauser rushes in to help out the escaping rebel fighters and warns them that if they exit through the door right beside them, they will instantly be caught and probably executed by Crosshair and his men. Cham is again hesitant to believe Hauser, but finally the clone captain gets through and pledges himself to fight against Imperial occupation on Ryloth, knowing that he should have stood up sooner. As the huge doors open, Crosshair and his men don't see the Bad Batch and the Ryloth rebellion, but instead Hauser. The brave trooper then gives a heartfelt speech to his brothers, warning them that they shouldn't stand for this unjust Imperial occupation and instead should rise up. A few of these brave troopers then toss their shields aside and agree with Hauser, but not enough do it, so the elite squad and the other troopers round their own brothers up and arrest all of them for treason. And I have to say that speech was truly beautiful by Hauser, so I hope we see him again. But this event finally puts the nail in the coffin that the inhibitor chips are actually wearing off on most of the clone troopers, and they are now starting to think freely and independently once again. Or it could only be occurring in Hauser's men stationed on Ryloth. We'll have to wait and see, but it does look to be a wider thing. This now squarely points at a large uprising happening on Kamino in the final episodes of the series, as more and more troopers gain their free will. On top of that, I think it's pretty clear that the rebellion on Kamino will be the reason why the Empire transitioned away from the clone troopers so quickly in the new canon, as we know that they were largely out of service about 1 year after Revenge of the Sith. Following that, Eleni and Syndulla tries to pay the Bad Batch the amount that Hera promised earlier on in the mission, but they refuse to accept the fee, and instead tell Cham and the others that they really should keep it, because with the fight they're about to enter, they'll definitely need it. And the fight that they are about to enter is the Free Ryloth movement, which quickly becomes a constant thorn in the Empire's side all the way through to Star Wars Rebels, where we see that Cham is still fighting alongside Gobi. Unfortunately, Hera's mother is dead at that point in the timeline, which causes Cham to go deeper into the fight for Ryloth, while looking out for his daughter less. This eventually causes a rift between the two, which sends Hera off of Ryloth to become a rebel, while Cham remains in the fight back home. After that, Hera kneels down in the same way that Leia did, as well as Bail Organa in Rebels, to give Omega some hope that they will see each other in the future. She then thanks Omega for having belief in her, and tells her to watch out for her brothers, because they really need it. Back at the Imperial refinery, Admiral Rampart is furious at what has just gone down, and admits that he has badly underestimated the Bad Batch, and is bitter that they are fighting against the Empire rather than for them. And to end the episode off, Crosshair requests permission from Admiral Rampart to hunt the members of the Bad Batch down, before spending a moment contemplating what he really wants to do with them. The last time we saw any real sort of contemplation from Crosshair came all the way back in episode 3, when he had a moment of reflection in his barracks, with the new elite squad all around him. So we'll have to wait and see next week whether or not Crosshair will still be hostile towards his brothers, or whether or not something happened to his chip when he was burned, causing him to possibly feel some empathy towards them. But to be honest, with the way they've done it so far, I could see Crosshair getting his chip out and then still staying with the Empire, because he really believes in the cause and wants to stay loyal to the Empire at all costs. And they really haven't shown too many moments of Crosshair regretting his actions, so I don't know how well they can really do a redemption arc with 4 episodes left. But we'll just have to wait and see. Either way, we're coming towards the end of the season and barreling towards a Kamino rebellion, which is bound to end in heartbreak for at least one of the clone troopers. So that is my full breakdown for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 1 Episode 12, Rescue on Ryloth, showing us how Hera Syndulla broke her family out of prison, and the beginnings of the Free Ryloth movement. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.